everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. All right. So yesterday we started with our training syllabus. We started some basics topics yesterday, like introduction on the payment, definition of the bank or the financial institution, the role of the financial institution in the payments, who are central bank, how do they play important role in terms of the local payment system, and then some of the accounting terminologies like Nostro account, Euro account, and the Nostro mirror account. These are the topics which we covered yesterday. Today, let's proceed forward to learn some of more basics today. So the next topic today is settlement account or the master account. Now, what is these kind of accounts, right? So, one second, I will try to join. So this master account or the settlement accounts basically are uh, the account at the central bank, basically. And the account owners for these accounts would be the local banks who are participating in a different kind of a payment system. Now, remember, we have a different kind of a payment system in India called as RTGS, we have NEFT, we have IMPS, correct? Now, these all are different payment systems for different payment needs. Like some are high value payment systems, some are low value payment systems, some are immediate payment system, right? Like that kind of thing. Like the different kind of a payment needs, they have different. In India, we have different payment systems. Now, in order to participate, each of the banks would be opening a master account or a settlement account at a central bank. Okay. I'll also explain it to you what is its importance during the payment for the local payment system in a while. But just for your definition, it is domestic bank's account at the central bank. Now, let's learn the key elements of the payment and settlement system. Now, whenever we initiate a payment or whenever we make a payment, what do we generally see? You initiate the payment by populating all the details of the beneficiary and the beneficiary should get credited. That's what we see. But there are three important parameters behind that. After you initiate the payment, the message is released, the clearing is done, and the settlement is done. Then only the beneficiary gets the money. So let's learn this, all three elements one by one in a little depth. The first one is the message. What is the definition of message in a payment, right? In a payment, general way of communicating which says payment of some amount has to be done is what exactly it means, right? Now, if you see, take an example of a very ancient way of making payment is via check payments. The digital payments kept on evolving decades by decades, but this is one of the messaging mechanism by which people used to make a payment. And it is there from almost 100 years now into the banking industry. Now, in order to make a payment to someone, how do you write a check basically, right? You are writing a basic, whenever you are writing a check on the name of someone, you are basically filling all the message data, right? A message data so that a bank, whenever they receive it, they will process the transaction. So you generally populate what exactly? You provide the person to whom you want to make a payment, and then you'll be providing the amount in words and then digits. You'll provide the value date, and then you'll provide the signature. Nowadays, the check will have the account number pre-filled in it. You will not have to provide this account number here. And there will be certain check numbers which is used for the authentication as well. Okay. So all these data which you are providing in the respective fields, on the check leaflet is basically a kind of a message standard which has already been standardized across the payment check processing system. And once this person tech lane or a company tech lane goes and submits it to the bank, either into the check deposit machine or to the branch, and they fill in the form where they want to credit it, the processing will happen post that, right? So the entire check leaflet acts as a message standard wherein in the check process system, it will extract data and it will process. So in the check processing system, they understand these datas or the message standards over there, correct? So likewise, there are different message standards which is being used around the world for a different payment system. Okay, so message standard has a significance in terms of a uh, decrypting what exactly the other party is trying to say. So message standard is basically predefined format that ensures when such messages are exchanged between the parties, they shall be able to decode what the sender party is trying to say. Now, messages are categorized basis on the different parameters. We have value, non-value messages. If you, and the name itself says that the value message basically involves some value, a movement of some valuable stuff, right? So it basically involves movement of funds, bonds, securities, or any other financial obligation, these kind of messages. Whereas the non-value messages does not involve any movement of any financial obligations, but used for information which is meaningful for operation and advice for reconciliation as well. Example to take it for value messages are cash deposit at branch by filling the cash deposit form. You already know that earlier now, I'm not sure whether you guys are doing it or not, but earlier days, if you wanted to make a fund transfer, people used to go to the bank, fill in the branch teller form, and then they used to provide all the details of the beneficiary to whom they wanted to make a payment and submit it to the branch teller along with the cash. They used to stamp it. That's it. So that is one of the example of the value message. Then there is a check and there is a demand draft as well. So which brings in movement of the funds from one account to another account. For non-value messages, if you see examples are the slip receipt, right? Or receipt received after depositing the money to the trailer. There is a stamped receipt which you get it after you deposit it. That is a non-value message, but yet meaningful for you. Check and DD slip received after submitting it to bank. These are some of the example of the non-value messages in terms of paper-based messages. In terms of electronic, if you see MT202 package line, this kind of messages are the value messages. To give some examples of it, where the movement of the funds happen. Non-value messages in the electronic side, if you see the 940, 950 statement messages, debit advice message, credit advice message, 919, these are examples of the non-value messages. It doesn't bring in movement of the funds, but yet meaningful for the operations, advices, and the reconciliation purpose. In terms of the paper-based, as we already discussed, we have check, demand draft. These are some of the examples of the paper-based messages. And electronic-based messages, if you see, all the ISO 15022 and ISO 2022 messages are the examples of the electronic messages to name few. Edifact messages are also there. There are plenty of other business areas as well wherein they provide the messages electronically, which is transferred. ISO 8583 is used. Just give me a second, guys. I'll just pick one call, which is important. Sorry, guys, it took a little longer than expected. Okay, so the messages are categorized based on the global standard messages as well as regional standard messages. If you see global standard messages, means it is understood globally across the banks or the financial institutions. Examples, the ISO 8583, which is used in the card payments. Swift ISO 15 or 22, EDIFACT messages, ISO 2022 messages are the one which are global standard messages used for globally in different parts of the countries. The regional standard messages, if you have to understand this, these are the messages which do not follow any sort of international standard and is limited to only for specific countries or only country or only parts of the country also. That is also possible. Example of it are in United States, we have this Fedwire. The Fedwire has its proprietary message, which is understood only to the banks and within the Fedwire system who are participant in United States for the Fedwire. It's a highly payment system for the United States, basically. And then we have this Nacha within USA and the chips. And then likewise in United Kingdom, we have this back standard 18. So these are some of the examples of the um, regional standard messages. These are some of the examples, snippet of the messages which is used, the artifact messages. This is how it looks like. Now, by looking into it, we might not understand what exactly the data or the message is trying to say, right? Unless you don't have the what message standard handbook. Now, when I'm saying about a message standard handbook, what does that mean? So Swift, just the way CVPR Plus has this message standard handbook, this acts as a message standard handbook basically. This is your CVPR Plus users guideline for ISO 2022 message standard. And likewise, we have for Swift MT1 category or 2 category or 9 category, 3 category. So for them also we have the Swift Message Standard Handbook. Basically, it covers the information related to the fields and what kind of data it can have it, the length of it, and what does it mean. In the tag wise, when it is been given, what is their definition. Likewise, the one who has developed this artifact sort of message, they would also have created some message standard handbook where they would have defined the different parameters, the taggings or the elements wherein it is capturing the data fields, right? It might have this UNB plus UNOB will have some certain meaning to it, and with that, some value it is been given. So there is certain meaning to it. Again, they would have defined the message standard handbook. Likewise, this is one example of ISO 8583. Tell me, Buraz.
Sorry, not relevant. What's the meaning of artifact messages? In that slide which you could see, which you showed, we could see Swift ISO 853. But artifact, what is the meaning? It's
So
not clear.
this artifact message includes information about materials and parts to deliver it. It's typically the message sent before the actual delivery. It's something related to advanced shipping notice, and it is internationally used. And it is not exactly to be in banking payment side, but some other information purpose.
Okay, is it
It
like
is
a
used.
bandit for Swift?
No, 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 no. It is not Swift. Not Swift. I'm telling you, messages is understood globally for the different business areas as well.
Okay, thank you.
Now, this is a sample snippet of your ISO 8583 message, which is used into the card payments. This is a flat file message, basically. It has this continuous data. There is no separation between one data to another data. By looking into it, we might not understand which one is the card number, which one is the amount, the date, etc. We are clueless until unless you don't have this Mrs. Standard Handbook kind of a thing, which might be released by the ISO 8583, wherein they would have defined the first 4 character length would define certain thing, followed by 16 characters would define a card number, etc. So they would define in their Mrs. Standard Handbook. Similarly, we have this Fedwire, proprietary based message. However, the Fedwire has a plan to migrate to ISO 2022 by 2025. Let's see if they're able to fully migrate it. So this is the proprietary message format of a customer credit transfer payment message. They use different tags. Now, in order to understand, they would have also created the message standard handbook to decode what exactly this particular fields captures, the kind of a data it captures, right? It is only understood by the Fedwire and its member subscriber bank, and none of the other banks around the world or any of the payment schema. They don't use this kind of messaging format in their systems. This is another sample message, again, flat file based message. UK back standard rating message. This is also flat file message wherein data's at least are separated by a comma, wherein each of them has a specific meaning defined within the system. And then this ISO 2022, which is what we're going to learn about. So these all are the different kind of an example snippet which I have taken from the internet itself to show it to you to give you a feel. So that's about your messaging. So the importance of the message in the payment is to communicate the payment of some amount has to be made to the certain party. It will have all the details related to the beneficiary, the amount, the charges, etc. All this information would be available basically in the message. The next thing is once the message has been communicated, what what exactly needs to be done. The next thing to be done is the clearing. Now, what exactly clearing means? Clearing has a definition. Clearing is basically a reconciling and a netting system before the actual settlement of the money or financial obligation can be done. Tell me, Kavita.
So just to check if all the existing one, this Natch and this Chaps, they all are expected to migrate in our this 222. That's a
Yes,
goal,
yes,
because I think you just
that
mentioned
is,
for
yeah.
one Fedwire, but it's for other also applicable for others as well. Are they planning to move
All,
in this?
yes, they have a
Okay.
plan. Many of the payment systems, which I am explaining it to you, they have certain plan to migrate to ISO 2022.
Okay. So it
That
will
will
be
discuss. Mhm.
globally, I think
Yes, yes,
accepted then, right? Oh, okay. Got it.
correct,
Thank you.
correct. That's what their objective is for the ISO. Their objective
In
is. Mhm.
Yeah, so it is with MT. I think Swift it calls to MT. You mentioned, and that MX is the existing one, 222, right?
Right now, the existing one, we call it as Swift MT, ISO 15 or 22. The one we are migrating into is ISO 2022, which is a MX-based message, XML-based messages.
Excellent. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank
All right. So clearing basically is a reconciling and netting system before the actual settlement or money movement happens, right? So when I say about the actual reconciling or netting system, what exactly it means? Netting means just to know about your positions. So to explain it, I'll take a basic example and then I'll explain it to you. So there's a person called as Ram here, and there's a person called Sam here. Ram had lended 1000 rupees, and after some time, Sam has given back this 500. So if you see from Ram's point of view, what will be his clearing, or how will he do the netting basically? The plus 1000 minus 500. This is equal to plus 500. So this plus position is called as a long position, or it is also called as a credit position in terms of the clearing language. Whereas from the Sam's point of view, if you see this is minus rupees 1000 plus this 500, this is equal to 500 minus. So this is in a negative position called as a short position or also called as a debit position, which means that Mr. Sam has to pay off 500 to Ram. Knowing that how much one person has to pay or one party has to pay off to the another party, or knowing the final positions or the closing balance basically is what called as the clearing. Okay. So I'll explain it to you. The clearing can be done either at a bilateral level between the two banks, it can be done at multilateral, and it can be done with the clearing houses. All these things we'll discuss it. So I've taken an example here of a bilateral clearing. Okay. In the bilateral clearing, first of all, what we need to know is that there won't be any sort of a third party who will do the netting between the banks. And in this example, which we had taken here, State Bank of India holding an account at the CTS Bank. So they themselves, basically whenever they open an account for the USD currency, they will define a cutoff time saying that after 5:30 p.m., any of the customer request comes in, the customer will be notified or saying that the cutoff time for the USD currency is 5:30. Any payment transaction initiated after 5:30 will be processed next working day or next business day. So at 5:30 p.m., let's suppose if the cutoff time they have defined between the State Bank of India and CTS Bank, and then CTS Bank will do the bilateral clearing themselves. Meaning they will basically generate a account statement report. A daily account statement report will be generated on this particular account and will be sent out to the State Bank of India. So this statement report will contain their opening balance, their closing balance, and all the transaction entries throughout the day which happen uh, to on this particular account, right? So this 940, MT 940 is the account statement report which gets generated. Basically, it is nothing but the clearing which they have done it by themselves. How much was the start of the day balance available, how much the debit happened, how much the credit happened on the notional account. They have done the bilateral clearing themselves. And that's when the statement report they have sent it. State Bank of India will consume this 940 account statement report and they will validate against the internal account posting. If it matches, then the bilateral clearing is completed. Basically, a clear reconciliation is completed and no issue whatsoever. If only there is issue, they will have this dispute being raised at the respective point of contact of the banks and the operation side. So this is a bilateral clearing wherein they have their respective accounts refunded. There are certain scenarios wherein if two banks agrees, imagine if two banks agrees that throughout the day you send out all the communication which is for the for paying of this payment, and end of the day incoming minus sorry bilateral clearing will do it, and whatever payment is to be paid off will pay at end of the day. If that kind of agreement is there, imagine, then let's say Bank A had sent out some thousands of transactions whose value is 10 million. Message has been sent out to Bank B, and Bank B has sent out a messages of maybe 1,000 or 2,000 messages which had a value of making a payment of 15 million. Respective banks have settled down to its customers. End of the day, when they do this bilateral clearing, how do they do it basically? So from Bank B point of view, if you see from Bank B point of view, what will be its bilateral clearing? Outward request which it has sent out was 15 million, right? So it is minus 15 million. And the incoming request which they received was a 10 million, which they help the respective bank A to settle down. So that becomes plus 10 million. So that equals minus minus rupees 5 million. So this is the position minus, meaning the bank B has to pay off, B has to pay to A this amount, right? This amount they have to pay off. This is how the bilateral clearing they have done. From bank A point of view, if you see, they will see that auto request they have sent out is minus 10 million is what they have sent out a request to make a fund transfer. So minus 10 million. And they have received a request of settling down the 15 million. So incoming they have received. So it will be a plus position, 15 million. So that will become a plus rupees 5 million. They are in a positive position, meaning they owe uh, bank A owe 5 million from B. So they do this kind of clearing by themselves. There's no third party or any system involved in these examples, which I'm discussing in the bilateral clearing, right? But imagine in India itself, if there isn't any mechanism like RTGS, NEFT, or IMPS systems, right, wherein they do the clearing for the banks. If in India itself, if it has to open up a relationship with each of the banks, 100 plus banks, or more than 100, I believe, almost 200 banks are there in India, small scale, medium scale, at the large scale as well, right? And the MNC banks as well are there in India, which is functioning. If all the banks have to make a relationship, uh, they have to maintain a relationship with each of the bank, and if only they have to what do you call it as establish a new bank in the respective country, then imagine they have to reach out to all the 200 individual banks. They will speak about agreements. They will have a message defined, what kind of message we can communicate, and then they will define the clearing mechanism, all those things. So they have to do on their own. See, at a bilateral level, when it is a cross-border payment, it's okay because generally one bank in India, let's say Axis Bank, in United States, they will have at most one or two or three or four nostro accounts partners, meaning they would maintain a relationship one or two or three or four banks in the United States for their USD currency transactions. Since USD currency transactions is one of the high valued currency or most usable currency which is used for the international trade as well. But small banks, they might not open up multiple nostro accounts in different bank in the United States. They might have only one relationship with one bank, and that's it. So in that cases, they can do the bilateral clearing. But if 200 numbers of banks are there within the same country, imagine I have to make a payment from my State Bank of India's account to one of my friend's account, which is in Bank of Baroda. And if there isn't any RTGS or NEFT or IMPS means, then it has to go through a lot of, the bank has to go through a lot of issues. I mean, complexity, not issues. Netting becomes quite complex when the number of banks within the countries are huge, and if there isn't any system available who could do it. So that's what it happens in a multilateral clearing. Without the clearing houses, the netting becomes complex as netting has to be done by the bank themselves. There's no system who will do the netting on behalf of the respective banks. With high number of banks connected, the netting becomes complex. As you could see here in this example, in this slide itself, only with the 5 number of banks, I have shown it to you the different arrows, which says like bank A has to maintain a relationship, accounting relationship with the bank D. Bank A has to, and likewise, D has to maintain with A, and C has to maintain with E, and E has to maintain with B, and this way. So netting becomes definitely complex for each of the bank to do for this many number of banks, if it has to be done in the country itself, country payments. New bank has to reach out to all the banks to set up the connection, and risk of settlement is on higher side as after clearing the settlement is done. So in this kind of a system, if it is done, then what will happen is within the country, they will pay off their final position amount after predefined interval, and if any of the bank default it, then there is a risk for the banks itself. That's when there is a clearing houses involved for the local payment systems. Whenever you are making a payment, you basically get an option in your net banking system. If you open and if you want to make a fund transfer, you get an option to make to select whether it is within the bank itself, which we call it as book transfer, or you want to make a NEFT payments, or you want to make RTGS payment, or you want to make IMPS payment. These many options you basically get it, and along with that, one more option you will get to see is a cross-border payment. This is a sample snippet of the net banking system of mine, of my Citibank, wherein if I want to make a fund transfer, it will ask whether I want to make a payment transfer within the bank of Citibank, any of the customer who is holding an account across the country, regardless whether it to some Delhi branch or whether it be the Mumbai branch. If it is within Citibank India, it is called as a book transfer. And then other options which I can get to select a checkbox or checking thing, right? Ready button kind of thing. Then I'll select whether I want to make an EFT payment or IMPS payment or RTGS payment as well. And if my bank has this cross-border functionality, cross-border payment features, then I'll be able to make a cross-border payment as well. This is there in your net banking. If you want to explore around your net banking today, login and see what all payment systems you're able to get to see or select while you're trying to make the payment. So there are clearing houses in each of the country around the world, and they have certain functioning. What exactly they do basically. Clearing house is an organization or a system authorized by the central banks of the respective country, where the financial institution agrees to exchange the payments, securities, or any other financial obligations. So example of clearing houses in India, if we see, is NEFT, which you can get to see, and then we have RTGS, which is used for the high value payment system, and then IMPS as well. IMPS is used for the immediate payment system, which is a backbone for the UPI payment system as well. These are all the examples of the clearing houses which are there in India. Okay. Likewise, for each of the country, uh, just give me a second, guys. Likewise, in each of the countries, basically they will have their respective payment systems, either for high value payment system, low value payment system, or the real time payment systems as well, which they can accommodate. Then we have settlement, the final. Yeah, go ahead. Mhm.
Sorry, I have one question. Um, these clearing houses, so for example, like it's ACH and RTGS, IMPS, who is managing these clearing houses?
Within the central bank itself, they will have these entities who will be handling it. RTGS is an organization basically. Real-time cross settlement is an
Mhm.
entity itself who is handling this high-value payment system in India, right? It's a clearing house. Clearing house is an entity basically within it. Likewise, IMPS and NEFTs are an entity which basically does the clearing for the banks within the country, whoever participating in it. The owner, uh, or you call it as um, initiatives, is all done by the central banks itself. It is within the central banks.
Okay, okay. So similarly, like in India, how we have these, like in international, we have clearing systems. They are managed by again the central bank of those countries. Is that how it is? How it works?
Now, international payment doesn't is not managed by the central banks. Only the local payment systems within the country, they are managed by the central banks.
Okay. And the international ones, they are like separate entities.
International is like a basis on a bilateral relationship between the banks. That's when there is no clearing houses as I told you, like, but they do the bilateral clearing. There's no clearing house like ACH, RTGS, or IMPS. It's a bilateral clearing. You
Okay.
understand bilateral
Like,
clearing?
yes, yes, I understand. So I have seen like sometimes there are these clearing agents, like this some bank is mentioned as clearing agent. For example, if bank A and B are having some transfer happening, and another completely different bank, bank C is mentioned as a clearing agent in the instruction. So,
But that may come basis, there isn't any sort of counting relationship. Intermediate agent bank can help them to make a fund transfer. So those things will be there. We'll discuss once we reach out to the international payment system.
okay, okay.
There
Thank you.
isn't, to answer your questions, for cross-border payment, there isn't any clearing houses involved. Okay.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Once the
so
clearing is done, yeah, go ahead.
I had the same question because I don't know if we can consider RTGS as a entity because it's supposed to be a system, right? The same way with IMP.
Oh, it is but they are, entities also been defined within the central bank itself. Just the way I guess NPCI is been managing IMPS system, if I'm not wrong. Correct? Likewise, RTGS is also been defined as an entity and as a system as well, wherein the clearing is happening for the high value payment system 2 lakhs and above. All right.
The doubt I have is with respect to the
Sorry.
okay.
Okay. Fine. Next one is once the clearing is done, when you know that how much of the amount one party has to pay off to another party, right? Your positions you know, and whether you need to receive or whether you need to make the payment to another party, then the final thing which happens is the settlement. Settlement means wherein the movement of the fund happens. Settlement is an act that discharges obligations with respect to funds or securities transferred between two or more parties, involves movements of the funds, consists of the paying of the debts. There are two types of basically the settlement. We have a net settlement and the gross settlement. See, even though we are going to learn about cross-border payment only, I wanted you to understand little bit, not much, but a little bit on this local payment system. Reason behind is will need in certain use cases wherein the payment passes via the local payment system as well. So I'll give you an example why I'm going to explain a little bit of domestic payment system as well, how they function. Is for example, one of the scenario I'll take an example here. Mr. Ram wants to make a fund transfer. Ram has an account at State Bank of India, but Ram wants to make a fund transfer to, let's say, Standard Chartered Bank US, okay? Not Standard Chartered Bank. So one of the customer who holds an account, let's say Sam, at Standard Chartered Bank US. Somehow State Bank of India doesn't have this direct accounting and RM relationship, messaging relationship, and the accounting relationship, basically the Nostro relationship. So it finds out a bank who will indeed help them to make a fund transfer. Let's say, yeah, in this case is CTUS Bank, where they have this relationship to make the USD currency transfer, right? So CDS, they have this Nostro account here already, which they can use it for the transfer. CDS Bank, on receiving this respective message, they will take an action and they will then forward the payment to the next bank in the payment chain. So basically, this is the beneficiary bank. So CDS Bank, what they will do is they will settle down. See, this bank is also in United States. This bank is also in United States. Within the same bank, they don't use SWIFT network. So this is coming from SWIFT network, correct? Because it is a cross-border, India to US. But from city US, even within the city, within the United States bank, within the two banks, they don't use SWIFT network. Instead, they will have this local clearing and settlement mechanism. For them, let's say Fedwire is a system by which they are settling down this transaction. So Fedwire. Already the central bank is under the central bank itself. This Fedwire system functions, and this fund is settled down with this Stanza Bank US. Basically, I remember I told you the City US Bank will have the settlement account at the central bank. Here at Fedwire system, once they receive the message, what Fedwire system will do is they will debit City US settlement account equal to $1,000, and they will credit Stanza Bank US settlement account $1,000. Now they have received 1,000, they will receive a notification saying a credit advice, and this bank will receive a debit advice. Because what they have done is, at the central bank, at the clearing and settlement mechanism for the Fedwire system, they have debited the City US Bank's settlement account, which is held at the central bank, and they have created the $1,000 to Stanza Bank US settlement account. Now they have received the fund, they don't mind, they will just receive this message. On the message, whichever account has been mentioned, they will credit. This particular scenario, this payment came in as an international payment, inward coming from international and outward going as a local, right? So in this scenario, this local payment system is involved. So this kind of scenarios, in order to explain for me in the future sessions, wherein we start our SWIFT payments, you would need to know what exactly happens in this high value payment system or RTGS kind of payment system. So that's when I'm going to explain you a bit of it, how it functions here as well. Okay. Yeah, tell me, somebody was raising their hand.
Yeah, hi Kumar.
Mm-hmm.
Hey
Listening.
Kumar, your a remitting bank, I mean debit bank, sending the MT-103 to beneficiary bank.
Mm-hmm.
I mean your SBI sending to MT-103 to this SCB, Standard Chartered Bank in New York.
Directly, they are not sending because they don't have any relationship. That's why they are taking help of intermediary bank called as Sirius.
Okay. Then who generated MT-202 cover?
Why do we need to know about MT-202 cover here? There's no need of 202 cover. We'll come back to your questions.
Okay,
Was
sure.
Rahul, right? So don't mix it up. Once we reach out to this SWIFT payment, we'll understand it. For now, I wanted you to focus on this, how this local payment system functions, right? Once we move into the SWIFT topic, we'll cover all those direct sealed and cover payment method. Okay. All right. Let's come back. So net settlement, I was telling it to you, right? That there are two types of settlement methods. One is net settlement, and another type of the settlement method is a cross settlement method. So net settlement is also called as automatic clearing house, which is an electronic network for the bank transactions. Take an example of NEFT in India. So this basically how it functions, right? At high level, that's just quickly I'll explain it to you. How it happens is you would have already initiated a fund transfer in an NEFT payment system in India. Right now, I guess every half an hour this batch runs. Now, when I say about a batch runs, let me explain it to you with what exactly it means. Let's suppose there's a bank A, there's bank B, and C and D. Likewise, many of the banks would be indeed onboarded into this National Electronic Fund Transfer of India, NEFT. They would have agreed for terms and conditions related to it as well. Now, if you have selected a payment to be done in using NEFT payment system, it doesn't get credited to beneficiary immediately, as you're already aware of it, right? In India, your salary payments also come via NEFT payment system, right? So that's when you'll realize that your maybe some of your colleagues would have received a payment little early compared to yours. Maybe the payment batch where it was run was earlier than that of yours. So when I'm saying about a batch, let's say understand that how exactly the batch files are created at a bank level. So let's suppose this particular LTT corporate customer who is holding an account at a bank A initiates the transactions using this NEFT mode. They have selected NEFT mode for the payment. They want to make a payment to Mr. Sam, who holds an account at bank D, let's say. So at bank A, what they will do is they will accumulate all those transactions initiated within the respective batch interval. Every half an hour this batch runs. So within this half an hour, they will keep on accumulating all those transactions, aggregating those transactions. Basically, they will keep on. This is how the batch files would look like. Okay, a flat text file. Each of the country has a different way of capturing the batch files. Either it be the flat text file or be in some other format also. So most of them goes with this flat text file itself, wherein each of the line acts as a transaction. It's a comma separated also as well, wherein each of it has a significance meaning of it. There is a debit account or basically all the payment data, whatever you populate, right? Whatever is required for the system to process, those all details would be like debit account number, the credit account number, the debit account holder name, address, and then similarly the address of the beneficiary customer account name, payment amount, and other relevant information which is required in order to make a fund transfer, which they will receive it from the front end application, right? From channels they receive it, and they will within the system of the bank A, they will keep on adding on in terms of this data. So all these transactions, once it is been added into the batch file, they will keep it into some folder path, secured SFTP folder path will be there, uh, wherein all the banks, not only this bank, right? Not bank A has already placed its batch file, which needs to be processed for the outward transactions. Likewise, bank B, like D, C, all the participant bank will be placing their respective file into this folder path of the server, which is connected for this clearinghouse securely, right? And for the individual banks. So within that half an hour interval where the processing has to happen, the clearinghouses picks up all the folder from all the respective folder part of this respective banks, and then here the sorting happens. This clearinghouse at an NEFT payment system, the sorting happens. What exactly sorting means? Sorting means they will identify from bank A how many are for outward transactions and how many are for coming in to bank A for the inward transactions, right? And all the messages which needs to go at a bank A, they will send out to bank A, and respective bank C has to go, C will receive the respective messages regardless from D, B or A. All the banks basically will receive the instructions whichever they are supposed to process it, and the respective bank is supposed to settle down to the beneficiary customer. So in this case, the bank A wanted to make a fund transfer of 100 million. So at the clearinghouse, it will send out to the bank D. Bank D will then settle down to this beneficiary customer with 100 million. Likewise, all the banks will settle down once they receive the instruction from the clearinghouse. At the clearinghouse, at any NEFT payment system house, what they will do is they will then uh, do the netting or the reconciling. Netting they will do basically. They will identify how many of the transactions for bank A was inward and how many of the transactions from in terms of the value, right, was for the outward. So basically, they have done the simple calculation mathematics, incoming to bank A minus outgoing from bank A. So it is in a minus 70 million, meaning 100 million was outward request. So it is minus 100 million and plus 30 million they receive a request inward from bank C, which needs to be done to bank A, right? So it's a basic simple calculation and their position is identified as minus 70 million, meaning bank A has to pay off, correct? Negative means they are in the debit positions or short positions, which they need to pay off. And likewise for bank B, if you see it is in, they did not had this auto request for that particular interval and they received only the inward request, which they have settled down. So they are in a positive position, plus 50 million. Likewise, bank C, if you see, both of them are the outward request. There's no inward. So minus 50 minus 30 is minus 80 million. Bank D, no outward request, only inward request they received. That's why they're in plus 800 million. So they owe 100 million. Now, this, whatever I have been saying, they will owe or they have to pay off, to whom they are going to pay off? Is it the banks? No, they are not going to pay off to the banks directly. It is, there is a mediator between all the banks, right? This entire box which I have created, it is called as a clearing and settlement mechanism, which involves your central bank accounts of the respective bank, basically central bank and that clearing house together. It is called as a clearing and settlement mechanism. This is the terminologies which they use it for the respective clearing payment system as well, payment schemas. So remember, I told you that the respective banks of a local bank uh, will be having an account at a central bank for the respective payment schema. In this case, for NEFT payment system, all the respective local bank would have opened an account at the central bank, wherein they would have already agreed when they have onboarded into the NEFT payment system, saying that once the clearing report, net position report has been sent out to individual bank, they have to pay off into their settlement account within this specific period of time. So they have to pay off who are in a negative position. And likewise, there would have been agreement with all the banks once it is done to the beneficiary customer, I should receive the fund credited, or my fund should be credited into my settlement account. So for bank D, they should have settled, they should receive it to fund, and likewise bank B, they should receive the fund because they are in a positive position. So after they receive this net position report, the banks who are in a negative position, in this example, 70 million is there for bank A, and bank C has to pay off 80 million. They will send a payment to the respective clearing house, basically to the settlement account. Once they receive the fund, what exactly they will do, central bank will uh, debit the respective account of bank C and bank A, and then they will credit to the bank B and bank D. So basically, the final positions of each of the banks, if you sum it up for that batch interval, it should be equal to 0, right? So minus 70 million and then minus 80 million is equal to 150 million, and this minus 150 million, and then this plus 50 million and 100 million is plus 150 million, which is equals to 0, right? So this is what happens at the net settlement system. So by looking all this process, what all things you have identified? All the risk is borne by this clearing and settlement mechanism, right? Why? Why I'm telling that? The reason behind is after the settlement to the beneficiary customer, then only the bank settle down, bank's amount or bank's account gets settled down. If any of the bank, imagine if bank A default in terms of making of the payment, then who is bearing the risk? None of the other banks are bearing the risk because it is the clearing and settlement mechanisms who is bearing all the risk. If the banks D did do not receive this 100 million, they'll not go and ask like bank A and bank C saying that your position were negative, you transfer the fund to me. They will not say that. They will reach out to this clearing and settlement mechanism. So they are bearing all the risk. First thing is that. Another thing is it is a time consuming definitely. Nowadays the payment system demand is, quick, but this kind of payment system, it takes time because it works in a batch processing model, right? And also, yeah, these are some of the drawbacks. This is not one-to-one settlement like our RTGS payment system, that once you have initiated, immediately the payment should be processed. So this was about your net settlement system. Another type of the settlement method is called as a gross settlement method. So the gross settlement method is a system in which the settlement or the fund transfer occurs individually after each payment transaction is processed in the system. There is no netting of the amounts. Money moves every time a transaction is processed. Banks generally use this type of system to exchange urgent transfers or large amount transfers. In India, this gross settlement system is called as a RTGS. In US, this is called as a Fedwire. In United Arab Emirates, they call it as UAFTS system. The name might vary, but the functioning of each of this high-value payment system or gross settlement system is same. So I'm going to explain you in a bit. So in India, since we call it as RTGS, the definition of it is real-time means that a fund transfer happens right away if the funds are available on the debtor account, and the gross settlement means the transaction is settled one-to-one basis. I'll explain it to you the flow of this RTGS payment. I've taken an example here. Let's say Fedwire is the example where I have taken here, their high value payment system, which is similar to that of your RTGS in India. So, there are different banks who would be participating in the RTGS payment. So there is an onboarding process that will happen to onboard this kind of local banks within the system. So once that is done, they will agree to the terms and condition again for this kind of a system as well, similar to that of ACH. And they will have a settlement account held at the central bank as well. So in this kind of a payment system, what banks needs to do is they need to ensure, meaning let's say these are the banks who are participating in the RTGS system. They would be opening an account at a central bank in order to use this system. So on those accounts, they need to ensure that they will fund start of the day, there will be a certain period interval where they have to fund their accounts. Now, why do they need to fund their settlement accounts? It's just similar to that concept of the Nostro funding, right? Which I was telling it to you. Only when you have a fund available into your Nostro account, you would be able to request for making a transfer by sending out an instruction. Likewise, the respective banks here of the local system of this RTGS or a Fedwire system in the United States, they will ensure that at start of the day, the interval when they allow where the funding allowed, they will fund their accounts with the amount whichever they believe like throughout the day would be sufficient for their outward request, which they will be sending it out. So once that is done, then there will be a period wherein in the Fedwire system wherein the exchange all types happens, meaning all type of transfer requests will be processed then from there. So let's take an example here. LTD is one of the corporate customer who holds an account in a CTUS bank, wants to make a fund transfer of USD 20 million within the country to another corporate customer whose name is PLC, who holds an account at the Stanza Bank US. They both are in the same country. LTD, they have chosen the mode as a Fedwire payment mode. And then CTUS receive this request, they will then validate multiple informations which they have received. They will identify the debtor and the creditor details, and they will do the necessary due diligence check on this one, and other message validations they will do. I mean, basically the message enrichment they will do, and appropriate message which is required, which is been agreed to be sent out, to send out an payment instruction will be sent out to the Fedwire system. So in our example, if you see this Fedwire, one of the example we have taken, right? So this is the format in which they will be sending it out, wherein the different tags carries out the different payment data. Some tags will carry out the beneficiary customer name, account number, address information. Some field number will carry out the payment amount, the value date, the debtor customer account number, name and address, the beneficiary bank information. All this information would be available, sent out in the respective data fields of this respective message format, which is accepted in the Fedwire system, and then it will be sent out here. When the Fedwire receives this particular message instruction, wherein they have asked to make a payment to the company PLC, they will then first of all check whether the CTUS bank has enough fund available within this settlement account of theirs or not. So they will check already. Let's imagine LTD corporate customer, LTD, sorry, not LTD, the CTUS bank, they have already funded at the start of the day with some 50 million they have funded at the start of the day. Okay. They knew that 50 million should be suffice for throughout the day payment things. So at the Fedwire system, they validated they have enough fund for settling down this transaction payment instruction which they received from CTUS. So they will debit at the central bank side. They will debit the CTUS bank's settlement account with 20 million. They will send out a debit advice to CTS Bank saying like, hey, CTS Bank, I have debited, we have debited your settlement account with 20 million for the payment instruction which you have sent it. And then Central Bank will credit to the settlement account of the Stance Bank US with 20 million. And they will send out a credit advice saying that, hey, Stance Bank US, I've credited 20 million into your settlement account. I'm also sending out a payment message instruction. Please help to credit to the PLC company. The Stance Bank US, since they have already received a credit confirmation, they don't mind to settle down to the beneficiary customer, they will credit to the PLC customer's account. Okay. So here the payments are settled one to one. They do not need to create, meaning CTS Bank did not had to create any batch file. They did not have to place that in some SFTP folder path. It's as soon as possible the instruction they received at the CTS Bank, they will create enrich the message and send it out the appropriate message instruction, send out a Fedwire system for the processing. The only thing which they need to ensure is they have a sufficient balance available into their settlement account in order for the fund to be processed. Otherwise, what will happen is either some system will reject a transaction or some system will hold the payment into the Fedwire queues and they will wait for the either incoming transactions in order to process that transaction or they will need to top up throughout the day into the settlement account transaction. I'll take a pause here and I'll take up some of the questions if you have any.
But just sorry to interrupt. There is a doubt which I asked. Got like the master account, right? If there is there are two banks are involved. My doubt is like, is a single master account involved or two master accounts involved? Like how the
Sorry, your voice
settlement
was breaking a bit. Can you repeat again?
now whatever the topics we are discussing, if there's a two banks are involved in the transactions, I'm just asking how many master accounts involved? Like if it's
No
SBI
nostro
with the other
accounts.
two master
In
account,
this
right?
exam, there's no nostro account involved in it because it is a local payment system.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, it's like a
Nostros come
settlement.
into
That means
picture. Yeah. Nostro come into picture when they are making a cross-border payment, right?
understood.
This is within the
Sorry, thank
country
you.
they are making a payment.
Okay, that means two settlement accounts, right? One of the account where Citibank settlement account with another bank like that,
Central
or
bank.
is it a direct set?
No, this is at the central bank. Sirius Bank has a settlement account here. See, this is the settlement account here at the central bank.
Okay,
Sansa Bank US also has a settlement account at the central bank. All the local banks will have a settlement account at the central bank of the respective country in order to use their
okay.
local payment system.
Okay. Will the how if the transaction of minus 550 million to Standard Chartered Bank, just we need to deposit to our Citibank only. We don't want to transact to Standard Chartered. That will be taken care by
Yeah. This system, the central system will take care of it. You just need to, as a CTS bank, you need to send out an instruction to this RTGS or this Fedwire system to process that payment. They will take care of this. Rest of the thing will be taken care of this clearing and settlement mechanism.
Okay, thank you, man. And the second one, like regarding the ACH payment, why if
Mhm.
you are mentioning that settlement happened after that only the payment will credit to the customer, right? If some technical validation, business validation happened in the crediting side, something like indicate some BAU scenarios, the payment
Mhm.
got rejected. But before that itself, the settlement happened, right? I'm just
Before
asking,
that,
like the same thing. SBI to ICCI, if you are sending in a ACH payment scenario, the settlement between these accounts, cross settlement happened at 12 o'clock. But the crediting will happen at 12:30. In some cases, the beneficiary customer having some proper behavior, then how the amount will be reversed into the settlement account?
the amount reversal also happens now. So by that
Reversals
time,
also, okay.
the amount reversal also happens. You have seen multiple examples of it. For example, even if you do the refund of it, then it reverse back to your account. It goes back to your account. So the reversal will also place in a similar way.
Okay. I thought like a next batch and the reconciliation will happen, something like that.
bank C, for example, to let's say to the bank D, already this clearing net position report, they have already received it, including that 100 million. If some
Yeah.
issue is there, then the next batch in the bank D has to refund it back to this to the original center.
Okay. That's what
Yeah.
about the next batch only. It will reconcile. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So let's quickly summarize the differences between the net settlement and the gross settlement as well. So at times, the interviewer might ask you the differences between these two systems as well. Settlement methods, basically. So net settlement method, as we discussed, the payments are settled in the batches, whereas the gross settlement payments are settled one-to-one basis, right? It is time, net settlement is a time-consuming clearing and settlement, whereas the gross settlement is a near real-time clearing and settlement. Risk is higher in the net settlement system. As we discussed, the clearing and settlement mechanism bears all the risk. And the gross settlement, totally the default risk is eliminated. You know what is the reason already. Only when they have a sufficient fund, the system will allow to make a fund transfer. The net settlement systems generally will have minimum threshold amount as the base unit, the base single unit of that respective country. For example, in India, it's INR 1. If you want to make a fund transfer via NEFT, it should be rupees 1. But for gross settlement in India, for example, it is 2 lakhs and above. Example, ACS in USA, NEFT in India. We have FedWire in United States for the gross settlement, and RTGS in India, UAFTS in the United Arab Emirates for the gross settlement. All right, so
Sorry, I had one small question. Um, so when we were talking about ACH, right, earlier, so I think we mentioned that in terms of the the gross settlement, there is a balance maintained at the central bank. You mentioned, correct, for settlement to
mm-hmm,
happen.
mm-hmm.
Uh, Whereas with ACH, could you just repeat that again? I'm sorry. How was the so with RTGS there is a balance maintained at the central bank, and from
Mm.
that it is deducted or used. And with ACH, what happens? The settlement.
Here, there is no balance to be maintained as such.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
They
mm-hmm.
have to, they will get the final net position report. Basis that they have to then transfer the fund into their settlement account, and from there, central bank will deduct and then credit to all those who are in a long positions, basically to the positive positions.
Okay. At the end of the batch, they have to transfer basically.
Correct, correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Now, this we discussed about this key elements of payment and settlement system, which included your message, your clearing part, and then the settlement finally, when the movement of the funds happens, right? These all three parameters or element you call it as, right, are the different services basically. Some systems will have a facility to provide all these services, that is messaging, clearing, and the settlement. Some they do only a couple of it or only one of it. So let's see some of the popular examples where they do the specific job. So for the messaging, as you already know, the Swift is one of the popular example of messaging services, meaning Swift only transports one message from one party to another party securely, safely, and accurately. That's their job. They don't do clearing, they don't do the netting for the banks, they don't do the settlement. Moment of the fund doesn't happen. Moment of the fund happens for the cross-border payment into the accounts. Message communication is what the job of Swift is. And that's what we are going to learn about it, right? Another example where the message processing and clearing both of it is done by an entity or system, you can take an example is Chips in United States, who does the message processing, also provides the clearing services, Euro and SEPA as well. Settlement, if you see, there is a National Settlement Service USA, which is under the Federal Reserve itself, who does the settlement for the respective settlement accounts within the respective Federal Reserves. Taking an example of all three services provided by one system is CHAPS UK. and Fedwire in United States, who does message processing. They have one messaging format. They have the clearing system within the Fedwire, and they have the settlement services within the Fedwire system.
Guru, one more. Could you give us the example related to India for all these messaging, settlement, and clearing with Indian
I think
payments?
I think India, they are using uh, ISO format. Okay, and in RTGS, you have all three facilities. You have the messaging, clearing, and settlement, which is being done at the RTGS system. So RTGS is one example for you.
Okay. But one more thing, like IMPS and NEFT will also come under the message clearing and settlement part or not?
That you need to check. I'm not sure on that. Okay, let's move ahead. As I was discussing it to you in your front-end application or the channels, you'll get an option whether to make the payment within the bank or if you want to select NEFT mode of payment that you can select it or RTGS payment. Based on that, the respective payment messages will be created and then system. Likewise, you will also have an option. If your bank is providing the cross-border payment facility, then you will have an option to select it, and then you will be needing to add on the beneficiary details and the relevant information in order for the respective bank to initiate a transaction on behalf of you, for you. So what all details you basically provide generally when you are initiating a transaction? You provide your beneficiary name, you provide the account number of the beneficiary customer, and if you ever made the cross-border payment transactions, these many details are definitely to be manually populated, like soft identifier code of the beneficiary bank, or you call it as a business identifier code. And if you want to save this beneficiary as a nickname, you will provide this nickname. That is altogether optional though. And city, country, address details information you have to provide. You have to provide this type of the charges, Bensa, hour, and yeah, there's many details you'll be providing basically. There would be also certain notes when you are initiating a cross-border payment in your bank, which is a disclaimer for you, kind of a disclaimer wherein it will explain some of the details related to your cross-border payment, which is like you need to provide a valid data for your beneficiary customer. If in case any rejection or return happens, then you'll need to bear the reject and return charges, and other important information related to compliance will be provided into it. Okay, so that was about the key elements of the payment and settlement system. We learned a little bit on the account terminologies and some definitions of the banks and other aspects. Let's learn some more basics, and this is a very important aspect, and this would be definitely asked at your interviews also, and it is part of your end-to-end flow aspect as well. So we need to learn about this payment processing activities that tends to happen. The payment, when you initiate, right, it goes to the bank. Where exactly it goes? What exactly they do? That is what we're going to do, learn about it, okay? Once you have initiated a transaction, where exactly it goes, which application it consumes, what all activities they do, right? Those are the things. Let's understand that. So to understand that, we need to understand something called as a payment hub or a payment processing application. So in this training, our focus is on cross-border payment. We'll be focusing. There's a separate, there's a separate course altogether, which wherein there's kind of a global pay plus or any uh, payment engine applications are available where you can get to learn. Here we'll learn about what exactly the payment processing engine, regardless whichever application it does for a bank, right? That's what we're going to learn about it. A payment hub or a payment processing engine or payment processing applications, all of them are same, and their objective is what? To process the payment. regardless whether it is be the incoming payment or be the outgoing transaction coming in from the channel. Correct? Nowadays, the payment engine comes with these kind of features which you can see in this particular slide. Payment hub is used for processing different kind of payments. One payment engine, one payment application is capable enough nowadays to process all varieties of payments. The one which I was telling it to you in some time back, right? If a customer chooses NEFT payment system or IMPS payment system or a book transfer or a cross-border payment system, all different kind of payment systems, once the customer is request, the payment engine processes in one single place. You do not have to go to different applications, or different application is not it at the bank side. So this kind of payment engines or applications performs end-to-end processing validations until they are intelligent. Payment hubs supports all the payment types, functionally rich, highly configurables. These are some of the features which I have listed down from the Global Pay Plus. Global Pay Plus is one of the payment engine or a payment processing application which is widely used around the world. It is a vendor-based application, Finastra product. Likewise, there are plenty of payment engine or payment hub which is available into the market. For example, TCS has developed this payment engine called as TCS Banks. You have FlexCube, you have FIS product called as OPF, and then you have this ACI product which is called as Money Transfer System MTCS. Then you have this Volante product called as Volpay. There's several what do you call this fintech companies or called it as financial service provider companies who have developed these products and who are selling out to different banks. So either either the bank, they can develop their own in-house product, or they can take this kind of vendor product which I told you, right, which is widely used, and they integrate it in order to process the payments. So many of the projects which you may get it in your bank is like enhancement or transformation of existing payment engine to a new payment engine as well. Now, generally, this is just a high level view. Basically, once you initiate a transactions from the front end application from the internet, it will create a request or what do you call it as a request one. They will create a request basically, which should be either in an XML format template or either JSON format template. Okay, and that acts as an input request for the payment engine. The payment engine basically the codes will be deployed at where exactly the server, right? At the server, the codes will be deployed, wherein the different business logic codes would be available, and it also integrates to the different databases wherein it interacts, fetches out the information, processes it, and then sends out the meaningful message to the customer. For an example, if the customer is trying to initiate a transaction which doesn't have a sufficient fund, in that case, the response should come back as insufficient fund. So it validates by interacting with the database, uh, which it has, wherein it has captured different balances available for this particular customer. So it is all things will happen. Where exactly it happens in your payment engine itself. So whatever data you provide from the front end application, right? So it goes to the respective payment engine either in the form of the JSON or in the XML format, and then the payment processing engine actively starts. So now I'm going to explain it to you the different payment processing activities that a payment engine performs. This includes for both outward and inward as well, which I'm going to explain it to you. So imagine if you have initiated a transaction. In this case, the Raymond Zidane, who is a person holding an account in this Central Bank France, has initiated a transaction, has an account with this particular bank, and they have initiated a transaction where he wants to make a fund transfer to Mr. Sam Flinter, who holds an account in a Great Britain city. So for that, he will provide all the details in the respective screen where he will be providing this beneficiary customer account number, name, address, payment amount, etc. And they will submit a request. Central Bank France, first thing what they will do is they will identify the debtor and the creditor parties, including the debtor account number, name, and address, um, account number, name, and address, and likewise beneficiary customer account number, name, and address. They will fetch in beneficiary customer information. Beneficiary customer information. They will get it from the front end application itself, whichever they have populated. The ordering customer who has ordered the payment, their details basically it would already be saved into the Central Bank France, right? Isn't it? And Raymond Zidane is initiating a transaction, meaning they have an account at the Central Bank France. From the downstream system, which is a core banking system, they will fetch the Raymond Zidane's account holder name, address, other information because that is required in order to send out an instruction at a later point of time. So that they will do it. Next sort of a validation or payment processing activity which it performs is account status validation. Just give me a second, guys. Next validation, which I was saying, is the account status validation. What exactly it means? Once a payment instruction is received, with that information of the debtor customer account, they will first of all check in the downstream, and the downstream is nothing but a core banking system. Now, those who do not know about the core banking system, it is the heart, or it is basically the central system which has all the information related to different aspects, be it your payments, accounts, loans, deposits, etc. All the information is available at a core banking system. If you want to know about the loans, it will fetch some application will create an API to interact with the core banking system to fetch out certain information. So it has all the details, updated balances for the customer account. It has uh, what do you call it as information whether the customer account is active or closed or dormant. All this information is available in the core banking system. So a payment processing engine will create, they will have this thing, what you call this request API, wherein it will interact with the core banking application. And for that response, they will receive it. So the request API, they will ask for the status of this particular account. And as part of the response API, core banking system will send out whether it is active, dormant or not. So those validation, it will do it because the fact is that if the customer account is not in active mode, and if it is in a closed or some other account, some other status, then it should not allow to proceed with the transaction, and the customer should be notified your account is dormant. Please reach out to the bank for further need and support. Tell me, Rahul.
For this reason, payments are fail or are unsuccessful. Am I correct?
Yeah, if you're trying to initiate a transaction with your dormant account, then you might not be allowed. You may not be allowed to initiate the transactions or freezed. Some reasons your account is been freezed or blocked. Maybe they have identified some suspicious activity and your account is marked as freezed or blocked. That's why you are not able to use the funds. So in that case, you'll be getting to know about it. You will not be allowed to make a payment.
Okay, Gopal, thank you.
Yeah. Next, sort of a validation or processing activity which a payment engine does it also validates whether the whether the funds is enough fund is available to cover your payment instruction, right? So how does that payment engine does it? Again, a request API will be created for that particular instruction, interacts with the core banking system to check the balances information. The balances, the varieties of balances available for the customer, available balance is there, and then there is overdraft limit if it is there, or the covering account if it is there, if it is for the cross, what is called for the corporate customer. So those kind of balances, basically, it will check and it will fetch out from the core banking system to check whether the balance is enough to cover this payment instruction, right? If it is enough, then they will provide all these details. And if it is not, then payment processing engine will send out a response, which is meaningful message to the customer saying like you do not have sufficient fund to cover this transaction. Tell me, Rahul.
Here the balance will check I mean from client end, or we have to check.
As bank, you have to check.
So I mean we have access all the portal I mean, banks.
Sorry, come again.
I mean so we have access for all the banks for to check the I mean accounts, to check the
The
funds.
payment today you try to initiate, let's say if in your account, if you have 5,000 rupees, try to initiate one transaction from your same account of 6,000 rupees. Okay. So but while you are initiating, when you are providing amount and trying to submit, you'll get a message or a pop-up message saying like you do not have a sufficient fund. So it is your bank front-end application channel who is receiving response from the downstream system, basically from the payment processing engine. You submitted some, you entered the amount, you clicked and submit. It created a request API or the JSON file which hits to the payment processing engine, and they have the system and they got a response. This is all just a fraction of a second for you, right? This is all happening for you in a fraction of seconds. So it's a bank payment processing engine who is validating all this.
Okay, thank you.
Next, validation is important validation as well, wherein once you have initiated a transaction, if you are making a cross-border payment for sale, then it has to do a due diligence, basically the risk assessment or AML validations, sanction sync validations. These are all things they have to do. This is the international regulation which they have to follow as well as a bank to ensure that there isn't any sort of a terrorist funding, anti-money laundering happening around the world. For that, respective banks will, have the respective applications in place which performs this validations, identification. So there is a logic again. This AML is a huge topic. AML compliance sanctions related is a huge topic wherein there are different algorithms by which the transactions, once it has been initiated, can be identified whether it is having any sort of risk or not. Take an example, if uh, certain hit words are there, which is internationally, which has been marked. Okay, OFAC has releases some set of hit words. For an example, Osama is one of the hit word which has been defined. Any of the transaction, whenever if you try to initiate with a genuine person also, if the beneficiary customer name is Osama and you have provided details as Osama, let's say Osama Mirza or something, the transaction will fall into a manual intervention. It will not be processed for your cross-border payment system. It will be parked into your manual intervention queue, and the operation user manually will intervene into transaction, meaning they will operate the transaction manually. Just ensures there isn't any sort of risk associated to it. For that, they might call you back, saying that for what reason you want to make a fund transfer, and other information. They will check it. If they find it legitimate, they might release. If not, then they would have to. I mean, if they found certain suspicious activity, then they would be informed to the local judiciary. Tell me, Kartika.
Yeah, so this AML is a separate system, right? It doesn't go via core
Correct.
banking. Uh,
It is a different application. For an example, Firco continuity is one of the popular example application which performs this validation. So they have this valid. So what way basically in a uh, APIs itself, all the data which is required for this FIRCO continuity or AML compliance system related applications, they will consume it, whichever the data is required, and post that They'll run the algorithm. The development logic codes will be available, deployed into it, and they will validate what all rules they have defined in order to identify sort of risk into it. There are other mechanisms also within it for anti-money laundering. They will see the past history of this particular customer and see like a similar kind of transaction he's trying to make to the different customer, and they will identify some link to identify any sort of anti-money laundering also. So anti-money laundering is making a black money into white money and then trying to send this fund transfer, right? So those kind of things are also there available in this kind of application to identify any sort of risk. So once that risk is identified, as I said, like it will be parked into the manual intervention queue where the operation user, that's when the jobs vacancies are available, for risk, AML, compliance, this kind of jobs. When you see this, these are the jobs which they are doing it, transaction monitoring, right? Wherein they will operate the transaction manually basis on certain set of SOPs which has been defined. So that validation is done as well by interacting with the AML compliance systems. Next one is a FX conversion. Now, what is FX conversion? Name itself, you would have already got a clue that is there is a foreign exchange conversion. Now, when I say about a foreign exchange conversion, what exactly it is? Um, Basically, from the base currency, if you are purchasing another currency, then you'll be getting the exchange rate. If you're trying to make a fund transfer, let's say you are having an account in USD or AD rather, and then you are making fund transfer in USD, then you will be getting this information of the exchange rate. In this example, I have shown here with the customer having a account in USD and they want to make a fund transfer. Payment currency amount is in AED. Basically, they are selling USD currency and buying AED currency, right? So for that, the exchange rate will be shown. Spot FCY rate will be shown, wherein you can see this kind of details. So in FX conversion, we need to see two types. One is spot FCY, another is the FX contract deal references. So these two use cases we'll see to it, okay? But before going into it, generally when you are initiating a transaction in the, for the cross-border payment, these are the details basically you will fill in, populate from the front-end application. If you are a retail customer, you will have one account at a bank. So you do not have to select a debit account number because you have one account only. You do not have to select. By default, your bank knows that you have that account number. But a corporate customer, corporate banking works in a different way. The one corporate customer can have hundreds and thousands of accounts. For them, they have to select a debit account number from the drop down if they are using the single transfer. Then they will provide its beneficiary name, beneficiary account number, beneficiary address, beneficiary bank SWIFT code, beneficiary bank address. You have to provide the payment date. You have to select when you want to initiate. Payment amount is there. And basis on the payment amount, whichever you have selected in the currency and the amount, the debit amount will also be getting calculated, right? Because the exchange rate will be applied to it. So by default, as I was saying it to you, I'll just show it to you. By default, there is a spot FCY rate which is applicable for all the customer, and which will be shown here in this exchange rate as well in the system, and that is applicable for certain period of time. As you see in the web, on the Google, you'll see the exchange rates fluctuating here and there, right? If the uh, every basically every second the fluctuation happens, but the bank will provide you 60 seconds or 90 seconds or 180 seconds of time while you are initiating in that particular screen if you are there. And if you're above that 60 seconds or 90 seconds, there will be a pop-up message saying that your or within the screen itself, it will show that this rate is applicable for next 60 seconds. And if you're able to submit a transaction, the exchange rate, same exchange rate will be applicable. Otherwise, the revised exchange rate will be pulled in. Customer reference and charge type also you'll be able to select whether who is going to bear the charges, whether the customer who is initiated a transaction or the beneficiary customer or the charges to be split. So these kind of details which you will populate when you are initiating a cross-border payment transactions. Okay. Now coming back to your exchange rate, there are two types of the exchange rates. One is spot FCY, which means that the live rate, whatever you see in the Google, right? Basically, the banks they consume from the Bloomberg. Bloomberg they consume the live feed rates. The live feed rates are basis on the different market ups and downs, right? So basis that they will update from there, and banks they consume as part of a feed file. They continuously consume these feed files, and they will have a different application basically, wherein they will fetch out the respective uh, exchange rate for that currency pair. When I say currency pair, it means your debit account currency and the payment amount currency. Basis that they will find out, figure out what is the exchange rate. Now, once they get this live rate, now basically in your FX system itself, they will maintain this. What is the rate to be offered for this particular currency pair? So in that also, the banks will make a profit. Banks are making profit from the exchange rate for the foreign currency transaction for the cross currency transaction, plus they're making an individual transaction level charges also, so that much of profit they have. So in this case example 22, I'm taking an example here where one person wants to make a fund transfer of 180 or probably 180 is sorry 180 equivalent of a person from United Arab Emirates wants to make a fund transfer in India. Okay, that person account is held in India, basically one of the Indian who is working in United Arab Emirates, maybe, right? And the exchange rate which a customer get to see in the Google is 22.77. But when he initiates the transaction, he gets to see only 22.67, for an example. Why is that? So that the same rate is not showing it for the bank when they are initiating a transaction. The reason behind is the bank is making a profit out of it. So for whatever the live feed rate is there, on top of that, they would have defined certain percentage on each unit, right? So they would have defined like 0.05 percentage, which includes for 22.77, which means like 0.10. So 22.77 is a live rate and 0.10 is their margin rate, bank's profit, and 22.67 is what finally customer will get to see in the front end application while they are initiating a transaction. So for this 180 equivalent, they will get to see that a payment amount is 2267, 2261 instead of 2277, right? And there just below to it, this exchange rate will be applicable for the next 60 seconds or 90 seconds or 180 seconds. Within that, they have to submit the transactions. Otherwise, a refreshed rate will be picked up. Another one is the FX contract deal reference. Now, what is this? For this kind of a contract deal reference or contract deal IDs are generally for the corporate customers or commercial customers where they want to make a fund transfer of a huge volume or a huge amount. Let's say Reliance is a big shot corporate customer. They have an account in INR currency in State Bank of India and they want to make a fund transfer in AED. So in this case, for 100 million AED, it's a huge amount, right? So definitely, even if it is 0.10 margin rate, it is a huge amount for the Reliance, almost around 10,000 or 1 lakh, or whatever it is, 1 lakh AED difference, right? So instead of initiating with the spot FCY rate, what Reliance will do is they will reach out to the relationship manager of it at the State Bank of India, and then they will check whether you can provide a better deal to us because I want to make a fund transfer of 100 million for my imports, which I have done it. So State Bank of India, the relationship manager will check out to the respective team, get an approval, and then Reliance would maybe, I'm saying, maybe offered with some better exchange rate. They will say like, for you, if you want to make a fund transfer of 100 million AED, we will give you, generally we take for the retail and other customers what FCY is 0.05 percentage as a margin. We'll take you only 0.02% of the margin. Okay. So when they are initiating and also when they say that they will create some kind of a coupon code, just like your Swiggy or Zomato, you will have the coupon code. Once you populate that and you will get a respective discount. Likewise, the Reliance customer will have to populate this FX deal contract reference number here. Yeah, FX contract deal reference. There will be one field for that respective currency pair. There will be one field. They will have to provide this 16 alphanumeric character coupon code, you call it as, or a deal reference ID, you call it as. Deal ID is what exactly the preferably called, or FX contract deal ID. Once it is populated, then it will go to the downstream, check into the core banking system or the FX system, and then fetches out the exchange rate for this one. The customer will be able to see that, okay, they are getting a better exchange rate applied for me. And basically, when they have created this FX deal reference number, that FX deal reference number will have multiple parameters into it at the bank side. They will mention like this is applicable only for 5 days. This is applicable only for up to 100 million AED, and the customer can make this 100 million AED either in one go or in multiple transactions go. So this all setup would be there with respect to that FX deal into the respective system. Those banks who do not have a separate application which maintains the FX related information, banks have this FX details within the core banking system itself. So payment engine will interact with the core banking system and they will update the FX rates and they will apply the exchange rate in order to convert this debit amount to a payment amount. Tell me, Kavita.
Two quick things. One, the amount what you mentioned is 33B, and it's a cost, it's a code or something, or
No, this is the debit
messaging system?
customer's account in the message app. That
Message,
later
message.
point of time I'll cover.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. And the
So
second is
33B is the instructed amount.
okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
This
So
is the
I think
customer's
that's
debit
something
account.
code or ID, right? That's something.
Yeah, that I'll discuss once we reach out to Swift payment. Yeah.
Okay.
Just
And
ignore for time being.
when, just to check when to use in, can you just go back to the screen? Two FX ways we
Yeah.
discussed. So when to use this one, like FedEx, this SPOCFI, and one when to use this
FX.
contract? I think it's for
So,
bigger deal or something. Yeah.
yes, correct. When the big sort corporate customer or commercial customers has to make a huge amount of transfer, and definitely this the margin which the bank is taking for that. For retail, for us, we are okay to pay off this deal, right? Exchange rate variation because we don't make a huge amount of transfer. But for a big sort corporate customer, if they are making a huge transfer, that is almost around one lakh. It's a huge amount. 1 lakh AED is a huge amount that comes in. So that's when they will reach out to these separate RMs to get a better
Okay.
rate.
And the first one is for, I think, individual level.
Mm.
That how it works. Okay. Thank you.
For corporate customers also, for the some penny amounts, they might go with the same spot FCY. That's not a problem. They just have to ignore this FX contract reference fields in that case. They will only ask for the better exchange rate for the huge volumes. Yeah. Tell me, next question.
Yeah, banks have a different margin. Huh?
Yeah. Different bank has a different margins. Some bank will take 0.05, some will take 0.04, depending upon how much they're giving.
And these charges they are setting depend upon the client, correct?
Charges we'll discuss in deep. Regarding the charges, right? Ben's an hour. We have a detailed discussion to be done. Let's park
No,
it
no,
for our
I'm
time.
just asking the client have to select these charges. Huh?
Yeah, they have to select. In the front
Right.
end application, when you are initiating a transaction, you will have to select it from the drop down either hour or Ben or SA. Okay. And this
Okay,
is that
thank you.
the charges will be taken or collected and how and what way, those things we'll discuss in our Swift payments. Detailed discussion we'll do it.
Okay, sure.
All right. Fine, guys. That's it for the day. Let's wind up the session. Okay. And coming
Uh,
weekend, we'll
Sorry,
learn some more. Yeah, go ahead.
just have one doubt. This if GPP is a payment processing engine, okay. Just have a doubt if it's both outbound and inbound scenario, how the interaction with the agency banks, like now you're doing like the account status, FX deal something. If it's a
Mm-hmm.
agency bank, how the API call will happen?
What is agency bank? I don't know.
Like if there is no direct interaction, like if SBA, if like Bank of Baroda is not having any relationship with the US, it will
Mm.
go to SBA. SBA only will deal with US, right? Something like that. So
Correct.
how the account details of Bank of Baroda will be checked? The account states of Bank of Baroda, this FX conversion, how it will be checked?
So they don't need to check account status of the Bank of Baroda. They will only be able to check the whoever bank is initiating a transaction. They will only
Okay,
validate the account status and other information of their customer. Correct? They will not check of any other bank's account status or as such. And related to your serial payment, the one question which you're asking is related to the serial payment. Uh, your questions will be very well clarified once we reach out to that swift topic. So just hold on
okay,
your thoughts for time being. I'll definitely
okay,
clarify all your thoughts which is coming on right now. But it is way ahead of time for others to consume
okay.
whatever you're asking. That's why I'm not deep diving into it. Yeah,
Okay, okay, nothing like that. Because in my project, GPP is owning it. I don't know about the agency
yeah.
bank details, so that's why I thought
Sure,
to
no
mention. Okay,
problem. Yeah, I'll explain. All right, guys.
Uh,
Any other questions?
yes,
Yeah.
so I have one. It could be very basic, but I just want to understand. Like when we
Mm-hmm.
see in the screen, feed rate, right? It we say it as live rate minus bank's margin rate. So when we
Mm-hmm.
do that, we arrive. The live rate was 7.77. When we added the bank's profit, the amount for the change went to 22.67. So how do we say this
Mm-hmm.
as the point 10 that bank's profit we get into charges, or how do we do that?
A different bank maintains in a different way. If you go back into FX system, they will say like bank margin rate, a spread rate, some terminologies which is relevant for the bank, they will make it. It
Okay.
will be there. So, but it, for to make you clear, it is a bank margin rate. This you can understand. Okay. Okay, guys. Let's wind up the session. Coming weekend, we'll learn more on the this other payment processing engine
Will you share
activities.
that this PPT for us? So just to go through that today, or how it
PPTs,
is?
PPTs, we will not be sharing it. It is there in your videos itself, but we have other documents, right, which I'll be sharing it out.
So,
I guess some absolute, it's a previous some rough slides are there, okay, which you can refer to it. I'll send it out, no problem. We generally don't share the slides. Rough slides are there. Master slide, we will not be able to share you. There are certain information, a good amount of information there also. That also you can refer. But the videos is where exactly you'll refer, have to refer most of the things because all the information is there in the videos. Okay.
okay,
But
yeah,
we will
whatever
be
proceed.
sending,
So we can just go through this
yeah.
context with the slides as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll be sending out all the documents which I told you, like which is part of your training package. Like today itself. Those who have made the payment today, you'll get the today's recording links along with this zip folder, which it contains all this information, the package of it. Right? Okay,
Okay, yeah,
guys.
share that here. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I'll see you next weekend. Um, have a great day. Bye, guys. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Umar.
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
Bye.
you.
thank you.